Bring the dancers.
Whoa, whoa, let's talk with Lakshmee.
Again now.
Whoa, whoa, let's talk with Lakshmee. Yeah.
Bring the topics. Let we chat now.
Today is a very historic event for the Let's Talk with Lakshmee TV show. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be interviewing the most amazing leader of our country, Guyana, the Honorable President himself, Mr. Donald Ramotar. Mr. President, it's such an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here as well.
Well, I met you a few times before in Guyana.
Yes.
And we had you on the show on your first term. So now we're having you again. So just a few questions. My first question to you is, please tell us about the current economic situation in Guyana.
Well, our economy has not been doing so bad over the last 9 years. We've had positive economic growth. And over the last 3 years, despite the fact that I had an opposition that was not cooperating with me at all, we still had 4.5% growth every single year. So our economy has been, it is much broader now. It is much more broad-based. It's not dependent only on 2 or 3 products anymore. It has much more wider base. So we're doing pretty well, but I think that we can do much better. Okay. We can do even far better than that if we had the majority in the National Assembly. So that is what we're working on at this point in time.
Okay. So how are you preparing for the upcoming elections?
Well, we're talking to people a lot. We're holding a lot of meetings now right across the country in every part of Guyana, both in the coastal area and in the interior area. So we're having hundreds of meetings taking place at this time. Also, we're using all the media that is available to us, the television, the radio, the newspapers, bottom house meetings in the communities, public meetings. We've started those now. So our work is beginning to pick up a lot in that regard, in as far as the meetings are concerned. And in the social media now, that has become an important part now of elections. So the struggle and the battle of ideas is also on the social media as well.
Do you think that the social media is a great help? I mean, I do see you're pretty active on Facebook.
Yeah, I got some help with it to get it done, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I know you're in New York City right now. Currently we're at Marine Funding in Richmond Hill, New York.
Yeah.
And you're talking to the Diaspora.
Yeah.
How can the Diaspora help you back home?
Well, the Diaspora had a big role to play because I know for a fact that a lot of people in the Diaspora they have come here because they are really economic refugees in a way.
Right.
A lot of them came here at a time when things were very bad in Guyana. So I think they need to remind their relatives back home in Guyana and remind the people back home in Guyana of what things were like and why many of them had to pull up root and branch and transfer to another country, which is not easy in any circumstances. So I think that's one way you can help, and to keep an interest and to talk to people in our country to help us in a way to campaign so that we can ensure that our country will not ever go back again as it did after 1964, but that we can continue on the forward trajectory that we're on at this point in time.
Mr. President, the stories that, I've heard growing up from my parents is, back in the day there was no rice, there was no sugar, you had to stand on a long line for bread and, for basic home products and foods. Is that something that it would go back to if the opposition would win?
Well, it's how the opposition managed the economy in the past that forced that to happen. And I don't see them have any new policies. Mm-hmm. It's the same old policies they have that the old Bonamite policy that took the country backward is the same type of policy they have. In fact, they wanted to launch their election campaign on Bonham's birthday. That's how much they still revere Bonham in many ways. Therefore, these things don't happen immediately overnight, but they ruin the country. In fact, that is what happened the last time. People are standing in long lines for basic food stuff, and the government even banned bread, they banned wheat and flour, they banned split peas, dal, they banned potatoes, they banned onion, garlic, tin stuff, sardines, corned beef, all of that.
Can I ask you why?
Because I don't think they had the money to import those things, and instead of they banned them from coming into the country. So that is what they've done, and that is the same kind of policy they want to follow. The same people, like the president, like the then Minister of Finance was Mr. Carl Greenwich. He is the one in the afternoon who is also fighting to get back into government. And under his management of the economy went to ruin. So clearly, and he managed the economy for more than 10 years, about 10 years he managed the economy before it actually collapsed. So it's the same people with the same policies, and therefore I think you can expect the same results in the final analysis.
Understood.
Yeah.
In New York City, we have a problem where a lot of people actually don't go out and vote. Is that a problem in Guyana as well?
Well, it's not. No, I think much more people go out in Guyana to vote than in New York City.
Okay.
So it's not that bad in our country.
So if these elections give the same result of a split parliament and a unified opposition, how will the PPP do differently to successfully manage the government if this happens again?
I don't think it will happen again, because you know that the opposition are coming together. They're uniting. They have united to come together against us. So it's mainly a two-horse race. So in this case here, I don't think you will have room for a split in having one of the two parties will win a majority in this election.
Okay. We're hoping the PPP.
Yes.
Nanking chain of restaurants serves a large variety of Chinese, Thai, and Indian cuisine, prepared by seasoned chefs and experienced professionals. Check out one of Nanking's newest restaurants at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Nanking proudly serves halal meals, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and seafood delicacies. Nanking Restaurants caters to private and corporate events for all occasions in their restaurants and banquet halls. Nanking Restaurants, a chain of restaurants which are also conveniently located in South Plainfield, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, Iceland, New Jersey, New York, New York, Atlantic City, New Jersey, New Hyde Park, Long Island, and the grand opening of their newest location at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Reserve your table today at 718-323-3555. That's 718-323-3555. For more information, visit nankingrestaurantgroup.com.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her on hospice. And I'm like, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come I feel happy. I stay couple and I see everybody, and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
Elegant Floral Design. We can help you beautify your event. No occasion is too big or too small. We specialize in floral decor and party planning for every event. Please call 718-322-9700 886. Please use promo code Lakshmee for a discount.
There are concerns that ministers in the government are not qualified or they're too young to run the entire ministries. This is compounded by a lack of trust in the corruption and transparent measures of the government today. What can Guyanese expect differently with that?
Well, I don't think that is the correct information that you have. I think I have, if not, I think I have the most qualified cabinet in the Caribbean. All of the cabinet members are very highly qualified people. And it's true that many of them are young, but we have confidence in young people. We can't talk about having that you want to have. Our country is fundamentally a young country, a young population. And therefore, we have confidence in our young people. They have shown responsibility. Many of my ministers that are young people have shown great responsibility. Honorable Priya Manik Chan has just been given a doctorate, honorary doctorate by a university outside because of her work in the Ministry of Education, and she's a young person. So I don't think that information is true, what you're saying there. About the corruption and so, we have been putting a lot of measures in place to fight corruption. Generally in the country, we are the ones who have the zero tolerance corruption. Corruption came up under the last government and has become institutionalized. So that is the big fight that we're having in our society, to root out corruption in Guyana. The opposition knows that generally our population has a no tolerance to corruption, and that is why they try to spin things and create stories and say there's corruption sometimes when there is none, when there is no place for corruption. So I'm not overly concerned about some of those issues. I think we can handle them. We have the facts, we have the information, we have to disseminate it more, and we have to do it in a better way.
Okay, thank you. Now, the past few years as president of Guyana, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, it's very difficult to say. I don't think so at this point in time, because what has happened to me in the last 3 years that I've been president is that I've had an opposition that did not lift a finger to try to help in any way. In fact, it was the very opposite. They used their one-seat majority to try their best to see how much they can do damage to the economy, how much they can hold back the development of our country. Not one single day have they said to me, look, President, the government is not doing enough for education, for health, for housing, and the government is not doing enough for the roads. Enough roads are not. Never. In fact, they cut the budget, cut $89 billion from the budget over the last 3 years. They cut essential areas of the budget, including like in education. They cut the loan scheme that we have to give loans to students that attend the University of Guyana to pay their fees. They want to cut that money out of the system. So they have shown a remarkable tendency to try to prevent development from taking place in our society. So there's not very much more that I could have done in that situation than what I have done. Okay. Really.
Indians are generally known as very passive people. And recently in a campaign, former President Jagdeo had said it's time to kick some asses, right? What did you take from that?
Well, I think he was speaking, first of all, I don't agree. I think that's a myth when they talk about Indians are passive people.
Okay.
I do not agree with that. If you look in our country, look at the strikes in the country. The biggest amount of strike comes from the sugar estate, and Indians predominate there. So I think it's a myth that they talk about Indians' passivity. That's I don't think that is true. When I think the last president was speaking off the cuff in a public meeting, he didn't have a prepared speech, and when he was making those points, I think he was meaning that we had to put. He was speaking about the opposition lack of cooperation on the part of the opposition, and the need for us to push ahead in a stronger way. Yeah.
So, Mr. President, if the PPP wins again, what will they do to beef up security and encourage tourism in Guyana?
Well, I've just before I came up here, in fact, I came here yesterday, and just before I left, yesterday morning, I addressed the police officers conference. And there I elaborated on many areas that we have to improve our work on. We have already improved in giving them more equipment. We have built a new forensic labs to try to solve a lot of the crimes. We've built new SWAT teams that have been completed their exercises there. So we have a new SWAT team, we have forensic labs, we have much more transportation. We've solved a lot of, we have floating bases. What I'm demanding of them is that they have to be much more responsive to the 911 call for police help, that it has to be much more quicker and much more responsive. And we are giving the police all the tools necessary to help to ensure that they continue to fight crime. It's a big task. I know it's not an easy task, but it's a task that we can't avoid, because security, as you said, is very important for a country's development. People got to feel secured in their atmosphere, and that is what we're pushing ahead on.
Okay. Recently on CNN, there was a statement made that Guyana is rated the #1 country in the world with the highest rate of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
What is the government doing about the suicide rate in Guyana?
First of all, I don't think that is a true statement, because when I checked with the police on the question of the suicide, the figures are far different that was used internationally. Where they got their figures from, I'm not sure. So I would say that those figures are not exactly totally correct. However, the amount of suicide is still unacceptable to us. I will admit that it is high. So we have to fight it in many ways. We have to probably look at putting it more. One, we got to look at the areas that they're happening to see what is the economic circumstances there, what is causing it. Look, trying to go to the cause of these things, and probably put more help in the area. We're trying to create suicide hotlines, putting more counselors, more people to work in the various communities, and trying very much to get to the root cause of why these things are happening, to study and why these things are happening, and put some of those measures in place to deal with them.
I know that there is a fairly new group, it's called the Caribbean Voice, and they have a campaign going on, the suicide epidemic in Guyana.
Well, the government is working with all groups
Okay.
that are interested in these things. Like we work with religious organizations,
Right.
with the temples, the mosques, the churches. We work with them in a big way. We have our own counselors and our people in the social sector, the ministry of, we have the whole ministry of social services, where that is a big aspect of their work. And we're trying to do much more work in those areas to deal with. As I've said, we're dealing with it as it exists, but at the same time trying to go to the root cause of the problem to see if we can eliminate it completely. And we're working in that section. It's not only the government, but we're working with civil society right across the board to help us to see what we can do.
Wonderful. I know this is something that has recently come close to home, touched you at heart.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I know your
Yeah.
niece recently passed away.
Yes, that was sad, yes.
Welcome to Platinum Celebrations Incorporation, event planner and on-day coordinators. Formal or casual, large or intimate, held at a private residence, dazzling venue, or the beach. Platinum Celebrations' unparalleled service and attention to details will take your special occasion from the ordinary to the extraordinary. As a full-service event planning company, our service goes beyond design and decor to encompass entertainment, linen and table settings, flower arrangements, party favors, invitations, photography, and so much more. From selecting the perfect site to achieving the perfect mood. We promise to guide you through the planning process from beginning to end, and we are on site throughout the entire event to ensure all of your time and money invested goes according to your liking. Contact Shivi at 347-432-8545 for a free consultation. Remember, Platinum Celebrations is here for your special day.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her in hospice. And I'm like, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come, I feel happy. I stay couple and I see everybody, and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
Getting ready to plan that special day? Well, the most important thing is capturing that special moment. No matter what the occasion is, big or small, Digital Photo by Buddy can capture it all. For all of your memorable events, whether it is a wedding, graduation, anniversary, sweet 16, puja, baby shower, or 9-day, Buddy will do it all. Just call Buddy at 917-741-9876. Digital Photo by Buddy, capturing your memories. Please mention you saw this ad on Let's Talk with Lakshmee.
Never joke, never joke, never joke.
It's Christmas time, and flute players, drummers, and flouncers, and costumes and masks dance in the street. Look, do you know what? I don't want Granny's macaroni and cheese. I need it now.
When you had your pocket full, in a biz there'll be money. Now because you money, all you hustle for tell me money.
So there are a lot of issues all around the world, in Guyana as well. And as a president, it must be very challenging to decide on what issue to deal with first. How do you decide on what takes precedent?
Yeah, well, I think these depends on the times. What is the most pressing issue at that moment is the type of issue that you have. But on a whole, I think, of course, the economy takes precedence because you see the economy continues to grow. And looking at investment in our various sectors of our economy, that's priority always. Secondly, increasing the social services to our people. Right now we have achieved a lot in education. We have not only universal primary education, but we're very close to having universal secondary education. We've increased the amount of technical education in the country, more technical schools than any other time. And education for us is a huge priority because we think that education, without education in the modern era, you cannot have a proper growing economy. And that is why we see education as so very important. Linked to that too is health. We've been putting a lot of investment in health and housing because that's another area that has helped tremendously to add to social security by more and more people getting their own homes. I myself did not own my own home until I was about 48 years of age. And now I'm seeing people at 24 and 26 having their own homes, being able to have their own homes. It's a remarkable achievement that we have had. in housing. So I think it's better than anything in any part of the Caribbean at this time.
Well, the PPP has been doing such great work in Guyana, has been developing the country for many, many, many years. So the main question here today on Let's Talk with Lakshmee, why should the people vote for you?
As you have said, we have delivered. We have delivered on all our promises. We have moved Guyana from being a heavily indebted poor country to now being described as a middle-income developing country. Our GDP, our economy has, over the last 9 years, has had positive economic growth in an international atmosphere that was not conducive. The crisis in North America and Europe has affected us. So the fact that we have had economic growth in this international economic situation, when US, Canada, and Europe are our biggest trading partner, speaks volumes about how well we manage our economy and our country as a whole. So in every area that you examine that are important, the PPP civic government has delivered. And that is why I think that the people should vote for us.
Okay. So, Mr. President, when re-elected, what is your vision for Guyana?
Well, I would like to move Guyana to a higher level. That we need to put new infrastructure in place, like new, cheaper energy is very important for us. So we need to have the hydropower going. And not only for Guyana's consumption, but because we have great potential, and if we can develop all the energy potential that we have, we can also become an exporter of energy to our neighbors, like Brazil. We can become a big exporter of energy, and that could be, energy can be a major source of revenue for Guyana, not only to use internally but to export. So we have to have those infrastructure. We have to put in the infrastructure in place with the deep water harbor, with a link in the road to Latem. We're working with the Surinamese to bridge the Quarantine River. So all of these things, we're looking at the possibility of a new bridge across the Demerara River. So we're looking at the to put the infrastructure that are important, put them in place, so that the economy can grow at a much faster rate than it is at this point in time.
Wonderful. I would love to see all of those things accomplished in my time as well.
Yes, and that it will happen in your time.
Okay. So what is your legacy going to be?
Well, I haven't really thought about that but I can tell you my objective has always been to ensure that when I leave the scene, that Guyana and the Guyanese people must be better off, and Guyana must be a much better place than when I appeared on the scene.
Okay. So, Mr. President, this show airs on NTN in Guyana and also on ITV in 7 states. So, to all of our guests that are watching you here today, please leave us with a message.
Well, I would like you to stand by us. These elections are very important elections. You know that we have delivered. We have been fighting against great odds. People who have been using lies and slander as tools to attack us. But we have shown that our country, we are resilient people. And we have actually, as I mentioned to you just now, we have delivered on our promises. We have some of the best health services now. We have a higher educational level. In fact, we have the highest retention rate in school than any country in the Caribbean and possibly in South America. And we have the highest enrollment in kindergarten education than any other country in the region. So we have delivered on the important areas for people, and we have worked very hard to solve people's problems. And therefore, in this crucial elections, I'm asking you to stand by me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, I'm Donald Ramotar, President of the Republic of Guyana. Over the last 9 years, our country has had very positive economic growth, and it has been going forward. We have expanded our economy. We have expanded social services. We have provided education for our children. We have provided assistance to parents to send their children to school by providing meals in school. We have built more than 1,000 schools, some of them with dormitories, so that all our children can have equal opportunity and can move ahead. We have worked very hard to improve health services. In every region, we have built or refurbished new hospitals. We have expanded the services. We are now doing some levels of open heart surgery at the Georgetown Hospital. We have been working very hard for the Guyanese people. We have provided more than 100,000 house lots to low-income people, so to have them having the security of owning their own homes. All of these things we have done, and we want to continue to build on this so that our country can move to another level of development. And that is why on elections on May 11th, I'm asking for your support to ensure that the PPP Civic is returned to office so that this progress can continue.
There are so many reasons why a person should vote for the PPP. Firstly, we have a track record of 22 years of government dominated and overwhelmed with economic progress, social upward mobility of our people, advancement of our society, the complete rebuilding of the infrastructure of our country. We have a sound macroeconomic infrastructure. We have managed to raise salary every year and at the same time increase social benefits, reduce interest rates, reduce inflation, and at the same time grow our economy at an average rate of 4.5% per annum in an adverse international economic environment. In addition to that, we have been able to build our country's profile internationally. We have re-engaged back with the international community. There was one time when Guyana was considered a pariah state, having owed all the financial institutions in the world and almost every country that it traded with, and being in a position not to be able to pay its debt. We have restored Guyana's credibility, and we have been able to restore pride and dignity to our people. We have restored democracy to our country. We have restored constitutionality to our country. We have restored the rule of law to our country. Today we have democratic elections that are certified to be free and fair by international observers. We have freedom of press. We have all the basic human rights being recognized by all state agencies. And there are so many other reasons why people should vote for the PPP as opposed to the PNC, whatever name they go by now, whether it's coalition or otherwise, it is the PNC, and they have a dismal record of destroying the Guyanese economy, making our country bankrupt, rigging elections, violating the rights and freedoms of the people of Guyana, murdering and assassinating political opponents, stifling freedom of the press, indebting our country to the extent where we became per capita the most indebted people in the world. It is important that every single Guyanese who is registered come out on May the 11th and vote solidly for the People's Progressive Party. Ensure that your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, and indeed every single person in your community comes out. If there are 3,000 polling stations in the country, then there would be 3,000 mini elections, and therefore what transpires in that polling booth on election day is what will determine in what direction our country will go. And therefore, not only should you come out to vote, but you must vote for the PPP and ensure that you vote properly and that your ballot is not spoiled, or else all and everything that we would have done would have been a waste of time.
Guyana, oh, Guyana.
I
this school is a place set up in the community to help children to further them education, to achieve a goal, a computer solved. I want to thank God for the scholarship for Rebecca Jairam, sponsored by the school. And the owner, I just want to thank God for them. They can continue do the good work as they are doing in this community.
Guyana, raise your hand up high.
I want to say special thanks to Save Happy Computer School because my daughter visited the school. She do a computer course here, and she went for an interview at the Regional Democratic Council for a job with 49 persons for 2 spots. And she indicated to them that she do a course at Save Happy Computer School, and she do have a certificate. And as soon as she produced the certificate, she was hired on the spot.
People say that there's other place to go, but there's nowhere like Guyana, Stand up, proud, celebrate. It's time, we just can't wait.
Hello Guyana, my name is Lakshmee Singh from the Let's Talk with Lakshmee TV show, and I'm here to talk to you all about the very serious case of the suicide epidemic that's going on in Guyana. I spoke with Mr. Anand Budram, who is the CEO of the Caribbean Voice, a few days ago, and he brought to my attention that in 2014, Guyana has been rated the #1 Caribbean country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. I was completely shocked, lost for words to know that the country that I was born in has such a serious case when it comes to suicide. Those of you who are watching this clip right now and saying, yeah, I know someone that committed suicide, or yeah, I know someone who attempted suicide, please don't sit back. Be the person that helps. If you yourself is experiencing thoughts of suicide or thinking that there's no other way and you don't know what to do except to maybe go this route, I'm here to tell you, it's not worth it. It's not worth taking your life. And I'm here to tell you that after every storm, there is a rainbow. Believe me. I know you're home, sitting back, looking at this clip, and maybe thinking that Lakshmi doesn't know what she's talking about. But let me tell you, I promise you, there is a better tomorrow. And if you're not strong enough at this point to think about yourself, think about your family. Think about the other lives that you will affect. I've heard that in Guyana, many people are taking their lives because of relationships. Let me tell you, someone else's life is not more valuable than yours. Do not take your life because maybe your relationship did not work out. It really is not worth it. Sometimes we suffer in work, jobs, and family, and education. There's stress all around the world. But let me tell you, there is help. You can reach out to the hotline number. You can call, you can talk to a friend, talk to your teacher, talk to your wife, talk to your husband, talk to your mother, talk to your father. Talk to us here at the Caribbean Voice. Remember, before you take your life, know that your life